Admiral James stood at the massive window of the United Earth Defense Fleet headquarters, his weathered hands clasped behind his back. The morning sun cast long shadows across the room, but his attention was fixed on the holographic display showing dozens of massive objects entering the solar system. "They're bigger than anything we've ever built," said Colonel White, his second in command. "Each ship is at least 5 miles long." James nodded slowly. Humanity had prepared for this day for centuries, but seeing it actually happen sent chills down his spine. "How many?" 50 ships in the main fleet, more appearing every hour. White's voice remained steady, but his fingers tapped nervously on his tablet. "They've passed Neptune's orbit. The emergency meeting of Earth's Combined Military Council was scheduled in 10 minutes. James took a deep breath, remembering all the drills, all the preparations. Humanity had never stopped getting ready for this moment, even during their longest periods of peace. The council chamber was already full when James arrived. Representatives from every major military power on Earth sat around the circular table, their faces illuminated by the holographic display in the center. Before anyone could speak, every screen in the room lit up with an incoming transmission. The alien face that appeared was humanoid, but clearly not human. Gray-skinned with 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English. "I am Ambassador Lord Rex of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our grand civilization. Surrender peacefully, and you will be granted protectorate status." The room remained silent. This was exactly how their simulations had predicted first contact might go, not with friendship, but with demands. Admiral James stepped forward, following the long-established first contact protocols. "Ambassador, I am Admiral James of the United Earth Defense Fleet. While we appreciate your offer, Earth is a sovereign world. We would be happy to discuss peaceful diplomatic relations." "You misunderstand," Rex interrupted, his upper eyes narrowing. "This is not a negotiation. The Empire has spoken. You have 24 hours to submit your formal surrender." James exchanged glances with the council members. They all knew what came next. "Ambassador, before you make any hasty decisions, I strongly advise you to research humanity's history, particularly our military history." A dismissive laugh came from the alien diplomat. "We have studied your primitive species. You've barely reached your own moon. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your weapons would be considered ancient by imperial standards." "That's not what he meant." General Black spoke up from her seat. "He's trying to warn you about how humans fight wars." "Wars?" Rex's tone dripped with condescension. "Your tribal conflicts are well documented. Primitive battles with primitive weapons. The Empire has conquered thousands of worlds. None have successfully resisted." James leaned forward, his voice growing serious. "Ambassador, we've spent our entire history fighting ourselves. Every weapon, every tactic, every strategy has been refined through countless conflicts. We've developed ways of fighting that would never occur to a purely spacefaring civilization. Are you threatening the Empire?" All 4 of Rex's eyes widened in apparent amusement. "No, Ambassador. I'm warning you. Humanity doesn't want war. But if you force one upon us..." James paused, choosing his words carefully. "We strongly suggest you reconsider your demands." The ambassador's amusement turned to anger. "You dare to threaten us with your primitive weapons. Perhaps a demonstration of imperial power is needed. You have 12 hours to surrender, not 24. After that, we will begin military operations." The transmission cut off abruptly. The council chamber erupted in activity. James turned to his fellow military leaders. "Activate the sleeping giant protocols. All of them." Around the world, hidden bunkers began humming to life. Mountain bases sealed their massive doors. Underwater facilities activated their cloaking systems. Orbital platforms disguised as debris quietly powered up their weapon systems. "They're not going to listen, are they?" Colonel White asked quietly. James shook his head. "No, they're going to learn the hard way." He looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Imperial fleet. Let them think we're primitive. Let them think we're easy prey. They'll learn what humanity is really capable of. In the depths of Earth's oceans, mountains, and orbit, machinery that had waited patiently for centuries began to wake up. Humanity had never stopped preparing for this day. The Empire was about to learn why. The red dust of Mars swirled outside the colony's reinforced windows. Captain Tom watched from his command center as the first wave of Imperial ships entered Mars orbit. They looked like massive arrowheads against the dark sky, their hulls gleaming under the distant sun. They're deploying landing craft, his sensor officer reported. 30? No, 40 ships. They're not even trying to be subtle. Tom smiled grimly. The Empire clearly expected this to be easy. Let them get closer. Remember the plan. We're just simple colonists. Scared, helpless colonists. The Mars colony had been humanity's first major step into space. At least, that's what the history books said. What they didn't mention were the weapons hidden beneath its surface, or the military facility disguised as a water processing plant. The Imperial ships descended through the thin Martian atmosphere, their engines glowing bright against the red sky. They were heading straight for the main colony complex, exactly as predicted. They're within range, the weapons officer said quietly. Tom shook his head. Not yet. Let them think they have us. The Imperial commander's voice boomed through their communication system. Attention, Mars colony. This is General Vale of the Imperial fleet. Submit to Imperial authority immediately. Tom pressed the response button, making sure to add a tremor to his voice. Please, we're just a civilian colony. We don't have any weapons. Don't hurt us. Your submission is noted, Vale replied coldly. Prepare for Imperial troops to take control of your facility. The landing ships were almost on the ground now. Tom counted to 10 slowly, then pressed his emergency command button. Now, the surface of Mars erupted. Hidden defense turrets emerged from the red soil, their barrels already tracking targets. Electromagnetic pulse generators, disguised as communication towers, powered up with a high-pitched whine. From beneath the colony's landing pads, missile silos opened their camouflage doors. Fire, Tom ordered calmly. The first wave of EMP bursts hit the Imperial landing craft before they could react. Half of them lost power immediately, dropping the final few meters to crash into the Martian surface. The others tried to take off again, but the defense turrets opened fire with pinpoint accuracy. Imperial ships in orbit are powering up weapons, the sensor officer called out. Right on schedule, Tom replied. Signal the orbital platforms. What the Empire had dismissed as space junk and old satellites suddenly came to life. Dozens of defensive platforms, hidden in plain sight for decades, powered up their weapons. They had been waiting for this moment for years. The first Imperial ship to fire on the colony discovered too late that its target wasn't as defenseless as it appeared. A concentrated burst from 3 orbital platforms pierced its shields, designed to stop energy weapons, but useless against old-fashioned tungsten rods moving at relativistic speeds. General Vale's voice came through again, this time with none of its previous confidence. What is this? You said you were defenseless. We warned you to study our history, Tom replied, dropping the scared colonist act. Humans are very good at hiding things. We're even better at surviving. More Imperial ships were entering Mars orbit now, but they were more cautious. The element of surprise was working exactly as planned. On his tactical display, Tom watched as Earth's long-hidden defensive grid fully activated. Similar scenes were playing out across the solar system as humanity's true military capability revealed itself. His communication officer looked up suddenly. Captain, message from Admiral James on Earth. The Empire's main fleet is mobilizing. They're calling for reinforcements. Good, Tom said, watching another Imperial ship retreat from Mars orbit with heavy damage. Let them bring more ships. Let them commit more forces. He turned to his staff. seeing the same determination in their eyes that he felt. The more they send here, the fewer they'll have to defend against our counterattack. In orbit, another Imperial ship discovered the hard way that humanity's primitive technology could be surprisingly effective. Its shields, designed to stop modern weapons, did nothing against missiles containing simple nuclear warheads. "Send word to all Mars defense units," Tom ordered. "Begin Phase 2. Show them why you never corner a human." The red planet's dust storms grew thicker as more weapons emerged from their hiding places. The Empire was about to learn that taking Mars would cost them dearly, and this was just the beginning. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, massive steel doors groaned open for the first time in 50 years. Similar scenes played out in hidden facilities across Earth, under the Himalayas, beneath the Sahara, in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. Humanity's sleeping war machine was waking up. Admiral James walked through the underground factory as ancient assembly lines hummed to life. Robots, powered down for decades, began moving with perfect precision. The air smelled of oil and metal. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Professor Miller stood beside him, her eyes bright with excitement. "Everyone thought we were crazy, maintaining these facilities all these years. They called it a waste of resources." James nodded, watching as the first batch of weapons rolled off the production line. "How long until we reach full capacity?" 24 hours for this facility. Similar timeframes for the others." Miller checked her tablet. "The Empire has no idea what's coming." Above them, the battle for Mars continued, but Earth had centuries of hidden technological advancement ready to deploy. Not the flashy, obvious tech the Empire expected, but practical, tested, refined weapons of war. In another part of the facility, technicians prepped the first wave of stealth ships. They looked primitive on the outside, exactly what the Empire would expect from Earth. Inside, they contained humanity's most advanced technology, hidden and waiting for this moment. "Admiral." A young officer ran up, holding a datapad. "We're receiving reports from all facilities. The Atlantic Deep Sea Base is online. The Antarctic weapon labs are operational. The Moon's hidden shipyards are beginning production." James allowed himself a small smile. "And the Empire?" "Still focused on Mars, sir. They're bringing in more ships, just as planned. They think they're facing a small defensive force. Not." The officer gestured at the massive facility around them. "Not the full strength of humanity," James finished. He turned to Professor Miller. "Begin mass production. Everything we've developed. Everything we've hidden. It's time to show the Empire what they're really facing." In orbit, the first of Earth's true warships emerged from its camouflaged hangar in the Moon. It looked nothing like the defensive ships the Empire had faced so far. This was a true warship, designed with centuries of warfare experience and hidden technological advancement. "Status report," James ordered as he entered the main command center. "The Empire's main fleet is still gathering near Mars," his tactical officer reported. "They've committed 40% of their local forces to the battle. They still think they're fighting a simple colonial defense force." James studied the tactical display. The Empire's ships were arranged in a standard attack formation, exactly what their intelligence had predicted. They fought like an empire that had never faced real opposition, using tactics that worked against less advanced civilizations. "Launch the first wave of stealth ships," he ordered. "Let's show them how humans wage war." Across Earth, more facilities activated. Production lines that had waited for decades began creating weapons specifically designed to counter Imperial technology. Humanity had spent centuries preparing for this possibility, studying every scrap of alien technology they could find, developing countermeasures for the day they might be needed. In his command center on Mars, Captain Tom watched as the first wave of Earth's true military power arrived. The ships looked deceptively simple, another human trick. Inside, they carried weapons the Empire had never seen, developed by a species that had spent its entire history fighting itself. "Send word to all human forces," James commanded. Operation Sleeping Giant is now fully active. Show the Empire why we warned them to run. Professor Miller looked up from her station. Sir, all production facilities report ready status. Humanity's full military-industrial capacity is now online. James watched as more ships emerged from hidden bases across the solar system. The Empire thought they were fighting a simple defensive action against a primitive species. They were about to learn that humanity had never been primitive, just patient, preparing, waiting for this moment. Begin full deployment, he ordered. Let's remind them what we said during first contact. We warned them about humanity's way of war. Now they'll learn exactly what that means. The ground continued to rumble as more facilities activated. Earth's long sleep was over. The giant was awake, and the Empire was about to discover why humans had spent centuries preparing for this day. General Vale stared at the battle reports in disbelief. His Imperial analysts had said this would be an easy victory. Instead, his fleet was facing tactics they'd never seen before. Another ship lost. Sir, his aide reported. The humans, they're not fighting like any species we've encountered. On his screen, Vale watched as a small human vessel seemed to appear from nowhere, strike with devastating force, then vanish again. Their stealth technology shouldn't have been possible for such a primitive race. Show me the attack pattern again, he ordered. The replay showed something that defied Imperial military doctrine. The human ships were fighting dirty, using asteroids as cover, launching physical projectiles instead of energy weapons, and employing electronic warfare that somehow bypassed Imperial defenses. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the stealth ship Shadow, Captain Tom watched his plan unfold. Status of the captured Imperial vessel. Engineers are inside now, sir, his tech officer replied. The Empire's security was exactly what we expected, designed to stop high-tech attacks, but vulnerable to simple physical interference. Tom smiled. Humanity had spent centuries thinking about how to fight advanced aliens. While the Empire had focused on energy shields and plasma weapons, humans had remembered that sometimes the old ways worked best. Download everything, he ordered, and plant our surprises. In the captured Imperial ship's computer core, human engineers worked quickly. They weren't trying to hack the advanced systems. They simply plugged in ordinary data storage devices and copied everything. The Empire's security was designed to stop sophisticated cyber attacks, not basic data copying. Back on Earth, Admiral James received the first batch of stolen Imperial technology data. How long to adapt it? Professor Miller was already working with her team. Hours, not days. They made the same mistake everyone makes. They assumed complex meant better. Their technology is advanced, but it's not efficient. We can improve it. Sir, a junior officer called out. Imperial ships are launching another attack on Mars. On the main screen, they watched as the Empire's fleet moved forward in perfect formation. It would have been impressive against most enemies. Against humans, it was predictable. Spring the trap, James ordered. Across the battlefield, hidden human EMPs activated. Not the fancy, high-tech kind the Empire expected, but simple, brutal devices that overloaded Imperial shields. As their formation broke apart, human ships emerged from hiding places in the debris field. They're adapting their shields, the tactical officer reported. Of course they are, Tom replied from his position near Mars. That's why we have Plan B through Z. The next wave of human attacks used no electricity at all, just kinetic weapons moving at incredible speeds. Simple metal rods, accelerated to near-light speed, smashed through Imperial ships whose shields were designed to stop energy weapons. In his command ship, General Vale was receiving reports from across the solar system. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were learning, adapting, improving on Imperial technology even as they fought. Impossible, he muttered. They're supposed to be primitive. But the evidence was in front of him. Human ships were now using modified versions of Imperial technology, but better, more efficient. They had taken Imperial designs and stripped away the unnecessary complexity. making them deadlier. Sir, his aide interrupted his thoughts. We're detecting more human ships. They're coming from inside the gas giants. They've had bases hidden in the storm layers of Jupiter and Saturn. Vale watched as another wave of human vessels emerge. Their design was like nothing he'd seen, a perfect blend of imperial technology and human ingenuity. They had clearly been preparing for this war for a very long time. Send word to High Command, he ordered. The humans, they're not just fighting back. They're getting stronger, and we still haven't seen their full capability. As if to emphasize his point, another Imperial ship disappeared in a flash of light, destroyed by weapons that shouldn't have existed on such a primitive world. The human way of war was unlike anything the Empire had faced before, and they were learning that lesson the hard way. General Vale stood before the Imperial High Command's holographic projection. His hands were shaking slightly as he delivered his report. The humans, he paused, gathering his courage. They are not what we thought. Every defeat teaches them. Every lost ship makes them stronger. They're not just fighting us. They're improving our own technology as they capture it. The High Commander's 4 eyes narrowed. You mean to tell me that a primitive species from a single planet has stopped our invasion? Not just stopped it, Vale replied. They're winning. On the tactical display behind him, a map showed the current situation. Imperial ships were retreating from Mars, their formations broken. Human vessels appeared and disappeared at will, using stealth technology that somehow blocked Imperial sensors. Impossible, another council member growled. We are the Empire. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. And none of them fought like this, Vale said. The humans, they think differently. They've turned asteroids into weapons. They've hidden bases in gas giants. They have weapons factories inside their moons. In Earth's command center, Admiral James watched as the Empire's main fleet approached. 500 capital ships, the largest invasion force in Imperial history. They still think numbers will win this, he said quietly. Professor Miller, is it ready? The professor nodded, dark circles under her eyes showing how long she'd been working. Protocol Omega is ready. We've modified their own technology and combined it with ours. The Empire won't know what hit them. All ships, battle positions, James ordered. Show them what humanity can really do. The Imperial fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect attack formation. Their ships filled the space between Earth and the Moon, energy weapons charged and shields at maximum. Surrender now, the Imperial commander's voice boomed across all frequencies. Face the full might of the Empire. James smiled. Now, he said quietly. Across the solar system, hidden human weapons activated. But these weren't the same weapons they used before. These were new, created by combining stolen Imperial technology with centuries of human military innovation. The first wave struck the Imperial fleet from behind. Missiles carrying modified Imperial drive systems phased through their shields as if they weren't there. The Empire had designed their defenses to stop their own weapons, but they'd never imagined how humans might change those weapons. Impossible. The Imperial commander watched as his ship's shields failed against weapons that used their own technology. We warned you, James replied calmly. We told you to study human history. We've spent our entire existence fighting ourselves, preparing for this day. The second wave of attacks came from the Moon. But instead of ships, the humans launched what looked like chunks of rock. The Empire's sensors dismissed them as debris until they suddenly accelerated, revealing themselves as disguised weapon platforms. Sir, Vale called to his commander. They're ships. They're using our own targeting systems against us. They've found a way to make our safety protocols backfire. Indeed, Imperial ships were finding their weapons wouldn't fire at the human vessels. Their own targeting computers were identifying the modified human ships as friendly forces. In the shadow near Mars, Captain Tom led his fleet of hybrid ships, vessels that combined the best of human and Imperial technology. All ships, execute attack pattern Delta. Show them what these primitives can do. The Empire's mighty fleet found itself under attack from all sides. Human ships appeared from hidden bases across the solar system. Weapons they had never seen before, created by combining Imperial technology with human ingenuity, struck their vessels with devastating effect. "Send the signal," the Imperial commander ordered Vale. "Call for reinforcements. All of them." Vale nodded grimly, but he knew. The Empire had made a terrible mistake. They had dismissed humans as primitive, ignored their warnings, and now they were paying the price. Admiral James watched from Earth as the Empire's fleet retreated in disarray. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Begin Phase 2. It's time to show the Empire that humanity isn't just defending anymore. We're taking the fight to them." The stars themselves seemed to dim as humanity's full military might revealed itself. The Empire was about to learn why you should always listen when someone warns you to run. Admiral James stood on the bridge of Earth's newest warship, the Vengeance. It was humanity's first true capital ship, built using everything they had learned from the Empire's technology. But unlike Imperial vessels, it was designed by humans, incorporating centuries of warfare experience. "All systems ready," Professor Miller reported. She had insisted on being present for the ship's first battle. "The hybrid drive is operating at 120% of Imperial specifications." Around them, the combined fleet of Earth gathered. Some ships looked like Imperial vessels, others appeared primitive, and many were something entirely new, a perfect blend of human ingenuity and Imperial technology. "Send the message to all ships," James ordered. "Operation Hammer begins now." The human fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, but not using Imperial methods. They had improved the technology, made it more efficient, more precise. When they emerged, they were exactly where they wanted to be, inside the Empire's defense perimeter. "By all their calculations, this should be impossible," Miller said with pride. They never thought to use their FTL drives this way. The Imperial command station loomed before them, its defenders caught completely off guard. They had expected any attack to come from outside their perimeter, not from within it. Multiple Imperial ships powering up weapons, the tactical officer reported. James nodded calmly. "Execute Phase 1. Across the human fleet, communication officers activated their new systems, using the Empire's own codes, broken through simple pattern recognition rather than complex decryption. They began broadcasting false orders to Imperial ships. "Look at that," Captain Tom said from his position on the Shadow. "Their command structure is too rigid. They can't adapt fast enough." He was right. The Imperial ships, trained to follow orders without question, were thrown into chaos. Some began retreating, others held position, and a few even started firing on their own allies. "Their entire system is based on perfect obedience," Miller explained. "They never considered what would happen if someone used that against them." The Vengeance moved forward, its hybrid shields easily absorbing the few shots fired by confused Imperial ships. Unlike the Empire's energy-based defenses, human shields combined multiple technologies: energy barriers, magnetic fields, and even old-fashioned physical armor. "Launch boarding teams," James ordered. From the human fleet, hundreds of small craft emerged. But these weren't normal boarding parties. Each craft was piloted by veterans of space combat, using tactics developed over centuries of human warfare. "Imperial Station reports multiple breaches," the tactical officer announced. "Our teams are inside." Tom's voice came over the command channel. "Shadow Team has reached their computer core, beginning data extraction." The Empire had built their station to resist any conventional attack. Their doors were sealed against energy weapons, their computers protected against advanced hacking. But they had never considered that humans might simply cut through walls with plasma torches or download data using simple physical connections. "Sir," an officer called out, "we're detecting Imperial reinforcements. 3 fleets, approaching from different directions." James smiled. "Right on schedule, Professor." Miller pressed a sequence of commands on her console. Across the battlefield, Hidden human weapons platforms activated. They had been placed weeks ago, disguised as debris from earlier battles. "Remember how they laughed at our primitive nuclear weapons?" she asked. "Let's show them what happens when you combine nuclear devices with Imperial gravity technology." The space around the Imperial reinforcement fleets lit up as hundreds of hybrid nuclear gravity weapons detonated. The explosions weren't meant to destroy. Instead, they created localized gravity storms that threw the Imperial formations into chaos. "Send in the hybrid squadrons," James ordered. "Show them what happens when humans improve Imperial technology." The battle that followed was unlike anything the Empire had ever seen. Human ships darted through their formations, using modified Imperial technology in ways its creators had never imagined. Each attack taught them more, helped them improve their adaptations further. General Vale was right. An Imperial commander transmitted as his ship retreated. "You're not primitive at all. You're something much more dangerous." "We tried to warn you," James replied. "Now shall we discuss the terms of the Empire's surrender? Or do you need another demonstration of human ingenuity?" The Imperial High Command chamber was silent as General Vale finished his report. The massive holographic display showed the full extent of their losses. Hundreds of ships destroyed, dozens of bases captured, and worst of all, their technology stolen and improved upon. In conclusion, Vale said, his voice steady, "The humans are not only defeating us, they are using our own technology against us, and they're making it better." The High Commander's 4 eyes blinked slowly. How? They were primitive. Their ships were basic. Their weapons were simple. That's what they wanted us to think. Vale brought up images of Earth's hidden facilities. They spent centuries preparing. Every war they fought against themselves taught them something new. Every piece of technology they developed was hidden, improved, refined. On the main display, footage showed human ships using Imperial technology in ways that should have been impossible. Their hybrid vessels combined the best of both worlds. Imperial advanced science merged with human practical experience. And now, Vale continued, they're pushing into Imperial space. 3 colony worlds have already surrendered to them. Not because of superior numbers, but because they fight in ways we cannot predict or counter. In the Vengeance's command center, Admiral James received the latest battle reports. Another Imperial fleet had surrendered without a fight. The Empire's reputation for invincibility was crumbling. "They're finally learning," Professor Miller said, looking over the data. "Their own colonies are beginning to rebel, using our hybrid technology." James nodded, "And the Imperial High Command?" "They've requested a meeting," Captain Tom reported from his position near the Empire's capital world. "Under a flag of truce, they're finally ready to talk." The meeting was set for neutral space, a small station between Empire and human territory. James remembered the first contact, how the Empire had dismissed humanity's warnings. Now things were very different. The Imperial delegation arrived in ships that showed battle damage. Damage inflicted by weapons they had never expected to face. James led the human delegation aboard the station, accompanied by Professor Miller and Captain Tom. "Welcome," the High Commander said, all traces of arrogance gone from his voice. "We are here to discuss terms." James laid out humanity's demands. First, recognition of Earth and all human colonies as a sovereign, independent nation. Second, unrestricted access to Imperial technology, which will probably improve anyway. Third, a mutual defense pact. Defense. The High Commander looked confused. Against what? "We were the most powerful force in the galaxy." "Exactly," Miller said. "And look how unprepared you were for us. What else might be out there?" Understanding dawned in the Imperial leader's eyes. Humanity wasn't just fighting for independence. They were thinking ahead, preparing for future threats, just as they had prepared for the Empire. "Your terms are acceptable," the High Commander said finally. "But I must know, how did you do it? How did a single world defeat the Empire?" James smiled. "We told you at the beginning. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting, learning, adapting. We took your technology and made it better because that's what humans do. We survive. We improve. We overcome. The peace treaty was signed there, on that neutral station. As the Imperial delegation departed, they looked out their viewport at the assembled human fleet. Ships of all sizes and designs, some Imperial, some human, most a combination of both, stretched as far as they could see. "Send word to all commands," James ordered as they returned to the Vengeance. "The war is over, but our work isn't done." "What now?" Tom asked. "Now." James looked at the stars, thinking of what might lie beyond. "Now we do what humanity does best. We prepare. We improve. And next time something threatens us, we'll be even more ready." Professor Miller smiled. "And maybe next time, when we warn them to run, they'll listen." The human fleet began its journey home, leaving behind an empire forever changed. They had learned what humanity had tried to tell them from the start. Sometimes the most dangerous species aren't the ones with the most advanced technology, but the ones who know how to use whatever technology they have in ways you never imagined.